residential tech talk, vendor, lighting specialist, arc residential tech.
Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. On this week's podcast, Hank Alexander joins us from on the road in Austin, Texas, where he is Director of Nationwide Marketing Group's Oasys Residential Technology Group. Nationwide Marketing Group, headquartered in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, is North America's largest buying and marketing organization for independent major appliance, consumer electronics, and home furnishings dealers. Oasys, a custom electronics and installation network inside of Nationwide Marketing Group, is the newest but fastest growing group in the CI business now with 300 members. The Oasys team has made impressive strides as it closes in on its Drive to 1,000 initiative. Today, we'll learn more about the group's director and how Oasys is different from other buying and education groups. In particular, its sister group, Azione, which is also owned by Nationwide. Hank Alexander, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me, and it's great to be here.
Well, when I looked at your resume, I guess your LinkedIn profile, I should say, I was thinking you're in Denver. I'd never realized where you're based. You're actually in Austin. Why are you in Austin today?
Yeah, so this isn't normally my background. A couple of hotel doors and a mirror. I'm in Austin for the CEDIA Tech Summit here.
Right.
So nicer here than where I'm at usually. My home base is in Wyoming, and so it's snowy and cold and windy there. And so it's nice to be down here where it's 70 degrees.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. You never know, actually, this time of year with Texas. It's hit or miss with that. But that's great. Good. Congratulations on that weather.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. I would imagine having a career in sales that you're quite the road warrior. So you're probably more used to being in a hotel room than in your own home.
Yeah. One of the first jobs I had in the vendor community, Mike Detmer at Niles asked me if I like to travel, and I said, yeah. And I said, in fact, I travel so much that my bedroom at home is set up like a Hilton hotel so that when I'm home, I know where I'm at. So, always on the road, always in a hotel.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the road, I most recently saw you at Azione Unlimited's fall conference in Nashville, and I didn't get a chance. We passed in the lobby, and I said, let's talk. And I got busy. You got busy. We never were connected. So we're going to do it in front of people, which is kind of fun. But we'll catch up on Oasys. I've been remiss not to have sunk my teeth into the group's sort of activities. I've been observing the releases as they come by and seeing Ted Green attending your big meeting this past year and reading his summary and thinking, oh man, I should have been there, but also happy that I didn't have to go on the road one more time to another meeting. But I'd love to get caught up on that. Before we do, I wanted to just kind of remind people who you are, where you came from. And I feel like I've always known you in this industry, but we've never really dug into all the different spots that you've hit. And as a journeyman sales guy in the industry, it looks like you've hit some pretty notable brands along the way, starting in retail or CI and then and working in sales roles. But you started off at Arizona State University, a well-known party school. I can't imagine that must have really prepared you for being in the CI business.
It definitely prepared me very well. And it's funny. My folks, we visited a couple of different schools, and I got to Arizona, and I was like, "Yep, I found it." And they were really nervous at that point. We're in trouble. And it's actually kind of how I started in the AV business, because about, a couple semesters in, my folks were a little concerned that I wasn't attending classes enough. And if I was going to continue my education there, I was going to have to find a job. And when I moved to Arizona to go to school, one of the first stops I made was I wound up at a hi-fi shop, and I bought a pair of Klipsch corner horns and an amplifier. And so when I was told I was probably going to need a job to continue my college education, I went back to the AV store and I got a job and started selling hi-fi. And it's been a lot of fun ever since then.
Yeah. So how did you move from then selling. Did you ever have a job outside the industry after you graduated, or did you go pretty much
Oh,
directly into the business from there?
yeah.
Or did you not
Pretty
graduate from
much
Arizona
around.
State?
Yeah, pretty much. No, I did. Yeah, no.
Okay,
Pretty
good.
much around. Um, Always in the industry. So in the summers, I would work. I'd leave Arizona and go work different places. I worked in Jackson Hole, Wyoming for a while, and worked up in Montana for a while. And I graduated, and it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? And it's like, well, I really like the AV business, and wound up in Billings, Montana, at a hi-fi shop and doing custom integration, and then just kind of continued the progression from there. And loved the integration business. It was very, very young, so we're talking like early 90s,
Mhm.
93 ish, 92, 93 ish. And, but it was a fun business to get into. It obviously, Billings, Montana wasn't exactly the hotbed of integration business, but it was fun to bring it into that market and then kind of work my way up from there into retail sales and then into the vendor community.
Now you didn't. Where were you originally before you went to Arizona State? Because you were going from a cold climate, I'm assuming, since Arizona seemed great. Where were you?
Born and raised in Wyoming, Casper,
Okay.
Wyoming, which
Okay.
is
So
actually
that's
where I live now.
right. Right.
So after
Gotcha.
kind of going full circle, right back to Wyoming.
Okay. All right. And so let's talk about just highlight a few of your stops along the way through the manufacturing spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Most notably, Niles.
Yeah.
I did two tours of duty at Niles, one with Mike Detmer and Frank Stearns. The second one was after Niles had moved on to under the ABC core brands and with
Mhm.
Mike Detmer and that team. Crestron was a highlight as well.
Okay.
Helped open that Denver office
Oh, okay.
um, and that was a great time. Love Crestron, great product, good people. So those are probably my two biggest notable stops.
Yeah. And so you moved to Nationwide Marketing Group, and I guess it's hard. People aren't really immersed in the buying group world, and I'm just calling them buying groups because that's kind of the general nomenclature. Even though we've kind of evolved beyond just that as educational and marketing spaces and things like that. So, um, when did you join Nationwide originally?
Um, Almost 9 years ago. It'll be 9 years in February. So banging on 9 years here, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been great. I was at the time I was with Claire, and Tom Hickman reached out to me, and they had made a change here, and we started talking, and it took us a while to kind of put it all together. They were going through some changes themselves, and wanted to make sure they had the right person for the right job and what their vision was, and et cetera. And so, um, yeah, it's been a fun time here, 9 years.
And so, what was Nationwide 9 years ago when you joined? Like, what was what was the organization focused on? Was it primarily the retail side of things, or was there always a CI part of it?
There was always a CI part, but it was very focused on furniture, appliance, bedding, consumer electronics, more retail. But we always had a custom install side of it. At the time, it was called SEN. And then when I came on board, one of the first things we did was we did an alliance with HTSA and rebranded SEN as HTSN, which made perfect sense with that alliance with the HTSA side of things, and continued to kind of grow it and mature that. And in 2020, I think it was in 2020, we broke our alliance with HTSA. Great group of guys. Still talk to John Robbins and those guys all the time over there. But then in 2021, we acquired the Azione business. And so it made sense. And so then we rebranded HTSN to Oasys in
Okay,
April of this year. So that's kind of
okay,
the evolution of SEN, HTSN, and now Oasys.
Okay, so that helps me along because I do remember those different spots, and then I get confused because of the breaking of alliances and things that happen, and you don't really publicize that. But it's like, okay, suddenly John Robbins isn't talking about these marketing opportunities with this partnership group,
Yep.
right? You just don't realize it until it's gone by. So now with the Azione partnership, that is an ownership of Azione. It's acquired as a group. So um, that it's basically a division. Azione becomes kind of like a division of Nationwide.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, absolutely. And when
and
I
then
when I joined, I think I was like employee 90 or something. It was a small I mean, Nationwide was not the organization it is today. We're over, I don't know, probably over 400, 450
mm,
employees. Acquired a couple of digital companies, acquired Azione, so yeah, it's a massive, it's a completely different organization today.
okay, but it's not like just what it is. It's a marketing group, so you provide like all these services, right? I mean, that's the big thing with the partnership with which it was HTSA originally, that they could come to Nationwide and say, you've got a video production facility or something we can
Yeah,
use, or you could.
we have a 4K production studio in Atlanta, just outside of Atlanta in Kennesaw. Great partnerships with credit card swipe rates and consumer finance and inventory finance and um, any kind of marketing. There was extended warranties, you name it. There's all kinds of things that it brings to that. And so yeah, we're not just a buying group. That's a portion of it, but always joke that people join the group for programs and they stay for education and all the other services because the programs are important, but they're a smaller portion of it now than they were even a few years ago.
Yeah. So when you say programs, you mean like buying strength or whatever with manufacturers?
Vendor program.
Yeah.
People join for those opportunities with vendors and distributors, and they stick around because it's the peer to peer networking and the education and saving money on all these other services and marketing and digital and everything else that we offer.
And then as you rebranded as Oasys, you put a kind of an initiative in place to grow that particular. We'll call it a buying group for simplicity here within. So you've got Azione as a member, as a part of that company nationwide, and now you
Yep.
have Oasys that's also doing similar to stuff to Azione. Just had your first big event last year. How's it? How do you market the two? Or how do you're in charge of Oasys, so you don't have to market Azione, but you may have to like compare and contrast when someone is looking to join or you're recruiting them to be a member. So how do you compare
Yeah.
the two groups?
Yeah, absolutely. So in September of 22, we hired Andy Orozco, and he heads up our CI team. So Oasys and Azione, and then we also have just started a commercial division, Ellipsis. And so Chris Whitley runs our commercial division. So our drive to 1,000 is basically 300 in Azione. Roughly 100 will be in our commercial division, although that's just getting started with Ellipsis, and then 600 in Oasys.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's our drive to 1,000. I'll be at about 600 in the next couple of years. And yeah, for Oasys, we want to talk to people as they're coming up into the business. So typically, a lot of buying groups don't want to talk to somebody till they're $1,400,000, $1,600,000. They're more established. And while I have those dealers and dealers bigger than that, we have dealers on the CE Pro 100. So we also don't want to talk to people as they're kind of coming up in the business. So when somebody starts to hit that $750,000 to $800,000 a year in revenue, and maybe even a little before that, we want to start talking to them because we can help them with um, better accounting principles and process management and education. And we've partnered with CEDIA, and we have the CEDIA online education, their CEDIA Academy, licensed for ourselves and Azione. So we can help with that education portion of it. There's a lot of things we can do. And if we can bring them along, we can help them grow from 700 to a million to 1.5 million and on up the ranks a lot faster than they can do it on their own. And we can help build some good practices along the way, and we can kind of mentor people along that way. And the group works real well because the guy that's doing 4 or 5 million, he didn't start out at 4 or 5 million. He started out down there at 700,000 and below. And so he can kind of talk to those folks and help mentor them. And these are the things to watch out for. And this is what we found. And they can really start to help each other out a lot. And so the dynamic in the group is great because we have people of various sizes.
Today's episode of Residential Tech Talks is brought to you by NICE, the global manufacturer of smart home, security, and building automation solutions. NICE is bringing together 30 years of innovation with award-winning products to create a holistic ecosystem for builders, integrators, and consumers. Learn more about how you can create one home with one solution at go.niceforyou.com/RTT. And you're probably seeing more companies, integration companies that have not been in a group. Is that accurate for Oasys?
Our biggest, as we recruit new members, our biggest one is people who've not been in a group before. When you look at the size of the industry, I think CEDIA says there's 11,000 members roughly or whatever in the custom integration space, and we can account for probably 2, maybe 2,500 on the top side. Maybe there's 3,000 people in groups. There's a lot of people that aren't in groups that should be in groups. And again, those are the people we're looking for. Certainly to some of the things that we're doing are attractive to people in other groups, and that's great. We're, very welcoming and want those people just as much. But we really look at, coming to a CEDIA Tech Summit and talking to people who aren't part of a group and should be. And what does a group do? There's always that question, well, what's a group going to do? I'm already getting the best price, or I buy through distribution. How can you help me? Or those kinds of things, and just kind of helping people along the way. Everybody has a different challenge. And so for us, it's about finding that key for them, whether that's education or buying better through a distributor or a direct vendor, wrapping a vehicle or whatever it might be, right? There's all kinds of things we do. And so it's finding that. And those are, again, when we come to these tech summits, we're looking for people who typically aren't in a group and should be.
Yeah. And I do have a question about like just what it requires us to become a member in terms of like investment and that type of thing. But before we answer that, you go to Azione, like I saw you there, and being a sister organization, are you just there to sort of like absorb what they're doing specifically? So maybe, you can kind of figure out how best to parallel that with your group, or?
I will say that Richard does and I've been to obviously HTSAs and I've been to a bunch of different events. Richard does a phenomenal job with events. And so I like going to his events and look at what he's doing and how can I plagiarize him? How can I copy what they're doing?
Yeah,
Sorry,
Richard Gleick's is a pro. He's been for those who don't know the ins and outs like we do, that Richard Gleick was HTSA's director forever, and then they had a change in leadership there, and he started his own group. It's built it from scratch, and now it's acquired and owned by Nationwide. So great example to definitely plagiarize from.
Yeah, I steal from him all the time. Yeah, it's a great idea. He does events great, and so I love going to his events and looking at some of the things that they do and how they do them, and then bring some of that over to ours, give it a little bit of our own twist on it for Oasys, and so that's why I'm usually there.
Okay, yeah, and so then when you're talking to folks at the CEDIA Tech Summit, like you're there now in Austin, is you've got a live one. For instance, you meet somebody and you give them the sort of sell pitch to join, and they say, okay, well, what's it require from me? Like, do I have like a annual membership fee to get these services? What do you tell them to get started? They have to go through kind of a process to be approved and official.
Yeah, we have our brand alignment pages, and we talk about where they're at in their business, what do they need help with, so that we know what levers to push and pull on our side. Make sure that they're a good fit with our vendor community. All of those types of things. It's not an annual commitment; it's
Oh,
a monthly commitment.
okay.
So we go month to month. We make it easy. Um, and filling out the paperwork takes, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes maybe, and then we've got some onboarding. We have a phenomenal portal called Exchange, where all of our distribution partners live, and we have a member net portal where all of our programs live. So we do some walkthrough on some of those different services, introduce them to different folks, make it pretty easy. But yeah, it's not, there is a vetting process, yes, but it's not something that we take them out of the field and make them run the gauntlet to do.
Right. And just as far as like the changes that have happened at Oasys this past year, as you kind of wrap up the year, you've launched a new website, and you've got a dedicated sales support team. So you've done a lot of work there in terms of just getting the organization to where it needs to be. Are you feeling good about the way it's all come together this year?
Our membership is way up year over year. We rebranded in March of 23. We hired a field team in April of 23. I did the first Oasys Summit, although we've done HTSN summits in the past, the first official Oasys Summit in May of 2023. We've added a ton of new vendors, new verticals, and of course, we're always looking at emerging technologies and verticals. We're getting into lighting and looking at power more seriously. It's not just surge suppression, but we're looking at some of those things a little differently. But yeah, the year has been phenomenal. In fact, I was talking to somebody, and they're like, "So what's on tap for 24?" And it's like, well, 23 is going to be kind of a tough one to beat because we did a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
but we've got some cool things we're working on for certainly for 2024.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about industry trends and products that are really kind of leading the way, and those are two categories that I notice. Obviously, lighting has just been a major topic of conversation. Lighting fixture installation, as opposed to just lighting control.
Yep.
Obviously, that's been around forever, and shades control and motorized shades. But what do you? It looks like you've got a lighting program with American Lighting that was added.
Yep.
Do you have other partnerships already in place with lighting companies?
American is our first. Jennifer and her team are the first, and we're building that out as we speak. In fact, we're going to do a podcast with Jennifer, I think next week for our members. We are talking to a few others and start to build that out. That's one of those emerging technologies. Looking forward to being at Lightapalooza in a few months in February in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of those definitely emerging fixtures, as emerging vertical for us, and we're working with a couple of people.
Okay.
Probably be some more partnerships in 24 around that.
Yeah, I know. It's like one of those things that if you're just trying to get, kind of a holistic approach, there are some players there that are effective, but then sometimes you just need like a linear option that's not part of a package with someone, or an outdoor option that's not part of a package. So I understand that's why you look for various partners that kind of do different things within the lighting. Power, though, that's another one that I think is a burgeoning category, not just, surge protection, things that we've done forever in this industry, but really that, connection to the solar and battery backup and, power management in a big sense in the home. That seems like, for a very sophisticated integrator, that's going to be an opportunity that's growing, and specifically different markets like California and places that really solar is taking off. So is that what you're observing as well?
Yeah, I think there's some things there. I think you're exactly right. Solar is one that's very interesting. Whole home power backup management, those types of things are very important. A good friend of mine is an electrician in Denver, and their biggest growth and their biggest challenge at the same time is pulling new service to houses because everybody's going to an EV. And so, it's like, well, it wasn't just a Tesla. Now it's a couple of Teslas, or it's a Tesla and a Taycan or whatever it might be. And, so if you've got two chargers, you have to have a different service pulled to the house. And there's all of these management things. And I think that that's one of those emerging technologies and one of those emerging areas that kind of excite me a little bit. Is I think that there's some real opportunity inside of that as well. Solar is an interesting game. I think it's one that is also emerging. It's challenging. We've all seen some players come and go in that space, but I think its time is certainly here. Is we're right at that cusp. So there's some interesting things going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt that our industry goes into solar panel installations as much as they're just having to integrate with the solar panels.
Integrate with it. Yeah.
But you mentioned,
and I think it brings another side of power management for the home too. When you dealing with solar and all of these different things and tying all of that together. So yeah, I don't think we'll see anybody in our business. I may be wrong. I don't know that any of our integrators are going to be on the roof putting in solar panels anytime soon.
Right. Yeah, but it's it's pretty involved trying to schedule that according to the proper, the rate, fluctuations during 24-hour period and that type of thing. And there's some really great solutions out there, but you have to learn about them and make sure they're part of your control system and all of that. So
absolutely.
What are some of the other programs or vendors that you're working with that you might want to highlight, just so folks know if they were to join your group, who some of the partnerships would be with?
Yeah, so a couple that I would say were key for us adding in 2023, and I know I'm going to leave some off, but we added Massimo, so the former Sound United, so Denon Marant, B&W, Polk, Definitive Technology, and Class A. I think that one was one that really we'd been working on for a while, and so that one was important for us, and it's been a great relationship. They've got a really good program. Sonance was another one. So I used to use Sonance speakers a long time ago. They've been in the business a long time. I love those guys, and their management team is phenomenal. And it's crazy because Tom Hickman and Andy and a bunch of us went out to their facility in California, and are at the corporate level. The two companies are so similar. Great values, family, all of these things. So at the corporate level, we matched up very, very well. It was kind of surprising we hadn't kind of gotten something done with Sonance in the past, but that program is really very strong for us. Obviously, American Lighting has been a strong partnership for us. I know I'm going to leave I'm going to leave some of these off. I feel like I'm doing a Emmy speech, trying to thank
exactly.
people. It's I know I'm going to leave somebody off of it, but
I can help. I can help you out, Hank.
Yeah.
I can list the names that you guys quoted in your end of year press release that I used for some of my research. But you've got Future Ready Solutions,
Future Ready,
Lowell, Project X360. I think those are the ones that they got highlighted. And I don't know if it's new programs, but obviously you probably have other ones that are really important as well.
Yeah, those are all new ones and important. And I was just going to say Future Ready is another one. They've got a great portfolio of brands and things that everybody and all integrators are using. So it becomes kind of I don't want to say a no-brainer, but it's almost a no-brainer. And it's really good. And Eric and Lawrence do a good job. In fact, I know Lawrence is downstairs. I'm not sure if Eric is at these. He usually comes to these.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're connectors and wire products and all that just infrastructure stuff that you have to use on every job, right? So it's really helpful.
Phenomenal brands. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess as we wrap up, I'd love to look ahead and talk about what Oasys has planned for 2024 in terms of just events. You said you're going to be at Lightapalooza. I will be there as well in late February in Phoenix, and looking forward to that. You've got your summit. How do you see growing from your first ever this current year, 2023, for your first actual branded Oasys Summit? How are you hoping to evolve that event, which it looks like takes place in late April?
Yeah, so it's late April back in Austin. We're downtown at the Hotel Van Zandt, late April, 29th, 30th, and May 1st. And so as we've grown, obviously the vendors, there'll be new vendors and there'll be a lot of education. We'll do some lighting education. We brought on a lighting designer in 2023, Kaleidolite, which kind of started us down that lighting path. So Bruce at Kaleidolite will be at our summit, and he'll be doing some education, a lot of other education, process management, and a lot of things that we've got going on. So a lot of vendors, a lot of members. Registration just opened, and it's already pretty strong. So registration just opened last week, and it's already pretty strong. So happy to have to add more rooms to that one. Lightapalooza will be big. I'll see you there.
Yeah.
Continue to do the CEDIA Tech Summits, and it's great now that we've got a team in place, and they're attending those tech summits as well. So, whether you're in New York or you're in Florida or California or wherever, when you go to those tech summits, you'll be meeting the local people there as well.
Well, that's great. It sounds like you've made some amazing progress in the past year and got a good year ahead of you. And Hank, I really appreciate your time today. It's great that we finally caught up and we could share this with other people as well.
I appreciate the time, and it was nice to see you at Azione, and I'm sure I'll see you at Azione again, because that's another one I'll be at this year. We'll probably run into each other, and hopefully you can make it to ours in late April.
Yeah, I'd love an invitation, and I'll make every effort to do that.
This is your invite.
Okay,
see you there.
All right. Well, thanks, Hank. And Hank Alexander is director of Nationwide's Oasys Residential Technology Group. You can learn more about Oasys at oasysgroup.org. And that wraps up today's show, which was produced by Residential Tech Today, IPW, and Pretty Easy Podcasts. Please check out prettyeasypodcast.com if you want professional and affordable production help on your own podcast. And if you're new to Residential Tech Talks, please subscribe to the podcast wherever you watched or listened to this episode. Also, check out all the latest residential tech news at our magazine's website, restechtoday.com, where you can also subscribe to the print or digital magazine and to our Tuesday and Thursday email newsletters. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist, residential tech.
Home automation, smart home or smart house.
This show was produced by Pretty Easy Podcasts and made possible by listeners like you. If you ever thought of doing your own podcast, please visit prettyeasypodcast.com.